fight against corruption. Gloria Kiba, CoreTV News, Abuja.
The Presidential Election Petition Tribunal has dismissed the petition filed by the People's Democratic Movement and its presidential candidate, Aminchi Habo, challenging the victory of Muhammadu Buhari in the February 23, 2019 poll. A five-man panel led by Muhammad Garba dismissed the petition following an application filed by the petitioner's lawyer, Aliyu Lemu, for the withdrawal of the case. Judiciary correspondent Basilo Kafa completes the story.
The Presidential Election Petition Tribunal dismissed the case of PDM following its dramatic withdrawal by the petitioner and his party. Counsel to the petitioners had informed the five-man tribunal led by Justice Mohammed Garuba that his client gave the instruction for the withdrawal of the petition and that they had found other alternative ways of seeking redress for the complaints alleged in their petition.
My client is satisfied. We are satisfied. It is time to leave the administration of Muhammadu Buhari to concentrate on national development.
The tribunal, in a unanimous ruling, subsequently dismissed the petition. The development came on the day the petitioners were to open their case.
Well, it's a welcome development, and it's something that started very well and ended very well. So welcome it.
It's very good and it's a very good thing. I think this is what we should encourage. Have you ever seen white people filing election petitions? Whoever loses congratulates the person who wins. Because one thing we don't know in this life is that what God does not want you to be, whatever you do can be. And if God wants you to be, nobody can remove it from you.
The dismissal of the petition came less than a week after a faction led by Bishi opposed the move by the national chairman of the PDM to withdraw the party from the case.
The matter has been withdrawn, and to God be the glory. We are not ready to talk much because we want to make sure the party is united, and so shall it be.
We made the whole working committee, 28 of us, and we have agreed to look at it with the advice of our council, and we decide to withdraw this so that we give peace a chance.
Officials of PDM had specifically alleged that the party's logo was not included in the ballot paper used for the 2019 presidential election as required by law, despite their lawful nomination and clearance by the electoral body to participate in the poll. President Buhari is now faced with two petitions from the candidates of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, and that of the Hope Democratic Party. Basil Okafo, CoreTV News, Abuja.
Operatives of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad (SARS) of the Nigerian Police Force have arrested a syndicate who specializes in the purchase and supply of AK-47 rifles to hoodlums in Taraba State. The State Commissioner for Police, Al-Qasim Sanusi, paraded the suspects with 8 other offenders, including suspected kidnappers, at the headquarters of the police command in Jalingo, the state capital, when he officially launched the Special Anti-Kidnapping Squad of the state. According to the police boss, the Special Anti-Kidnapping Squad will be reciprocated in the 16 local government areas of the Taraba State in order to nip in the bud the incessant cases of kidnapping and other related crimes. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) has sealed major properties belonging to the former governor of Rochas in Owerri, the Imo State capital. Some of the properties sealed included East Eye Academy, All-In Shopping Mall, as well as Okorocha's Foundation College. The principal of the college, Eko Kenneth, says EFCC from Enugu visited the school and explained that the seal does not mean closure of the academic activities of the investigations are still ongoing. Correspondent Joseph Oliver has details.
This is East High Academy as well as Rochas Okorocha's Foundation College in Owerri, capital of Imo State. Both schools, which belong to the former governor, Rochas Okorocha, was under siege by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. The commission boldly wrote on its wall of the property, "Keep off, under investigation." The principal of the college, who confirmed the report, gave details of what transpired.
At about 6:15 yesterday evening, that's PM, the team from the EFCC northeast zone, Enugu. They visited the school in the evening. I was in the office, just like this. And the security men around, that's the school security. They called me that I'm needed downstairs, and I went there. We met, we greeted each other. Then I got a letter from them, a letter of invitation, and they went round. And after going a while, some were going around. They were also writing that this place is under keep-off, the place is under investigation by EFCC. And we had that discussion with them. And after that, the next thing, while they were about leaving, the person that headed the team, I asked a question. Do I understand what the simple language means, keep off? I would want to know the details so that one will not frustrate their effort, because they say this investigation. And anything you do without seeking permission, it means you are going contrary to their mode of investigation. So he said that it does not include students or the staff of this place. That when they say kick off, it's just that the students will continue their academic work, and there's nothing about that. And they drove off. It was peaceful, and they left.
As a result of this, the students of the college who are supposed to be taking the examinations were left stranded outside the college gate. They expressed worry over what will happen to them should EFCC finally close the college.
We came to school this morning and we saw a write-up by the EFCC. So we asked to come out to tell the world that we are on scholarship, that there's no problem, that nothing is going to happen. My whole story will just be cut off because the school means lots to me. Without this school, I don't think I'll be somebody in the future. But with the school, I know that I'm furthering higher. With the school, I know that the whole world will hear me. With this school, and with our founder, His Excellency, I know that I'm going somewhere.
I just came this morning, so I saw what they wrote on our school was that EFCC, under investigation by EFCC. So I was kind of surprised when I came to school this morning. I then asked my friend that what was going on, that she doesn't know. That she myself, that she came to school this morning and she saw what they wrote on our school was.
William Okorocha has made it a point of duty that, oh, God bless me, that I'll bless my generation. And what he has always done, I've known him for a very long time, to be precise with you. He's been into education. In fact, we met in 1983, as far back as that. He started, an educational scheme in Jos, Plateau State, to be precise and form, and mobilize everybody. His heartbeat, he said, if everybody can be educated, the society will be a better place. We can understand each other better. That was his own policy. And he started, mobilizing everybody. And up to this moment, he has not given up. 20 years ago, he started the Rochers Foundation College. And as of today, we have it, the North, South, East, and West, Kano, Kaduna, Zaria, Jos, Bauchi, Yola, Sokoto, and Akwa Ibom, I think it's almost ready for resumption by September, by God's grace. Even when he was not a governor, all that he earned in life has always been devoted to that.
Senator Rochers Okorocha's other properties sealed include Royal Spring Palm Hotel, all in shopping mall, and house in Elfrida situated at Margareta Road in Owerri. Meanwhile, in a telephone interview with the special advisor to the former governor, says the People's Democratic Party is responsible for the invitation of EFCC to Senator Rochers Okorocha's property.
And on the foreign scene, Tunisian President Beji Said Essebsi, the North African country's first democratically elected leader, died Thursday at the age of 92. The veteran politician, the oldest head of state after Britain's Queen Elizabeth II came to power in 2014, 3 years after the Arab Spring uprising toppled. Long time and sparked revolts in several Arab nations. He had then been hospitalized with a severe illness late in June and was returned to intensive care unit on Thursday. And that's a wrap and news on the hour. I am Uyimpriye Krumale. Many thanks for watching.
Shitu, Mr. Adebayo Shitu from Oyo State. Then talk about Lai Mohammed from Kwara State, Minister for Information. So the Minister for Agri to Health.
What's the Minister for Agri?
Agri Audu Ogbe. Okay. Then Health.
You have to give a round of applause for yourself. Can you drop your bag? Let the camera drop your bag and give a round of applause for yourself. Okay, let me give you a presidential handshake. Thank you very much for that nice one.
I want the benefit of the presidential handshake.
It's that I'm giving you a presidential handshake. Well, very interesting there. This young man here was able to make mention of some of the ministers that we have in the country. Let's go more to feel more Nigerians about how many ministers do we really have? See more on the street. Fashola, Ameche, Lai Mohammed. What can you say about them?
I'm not that good in news.
Just try.
Yes, Fashola really did very well when he was in Lagos. He did very well. The road, particularly on the road, he really did very well. So,
and who else?
Who else you call?
Can you tell us some of the ministers and their designation?
I don't really have much interest on those ministers.
What ministry is Fashola heading?
Is it not APC?
What ministry?
This electricity.
Funny on the street, so you don't know that Fashola is in charge of the Ministry of Power Works and Housing?
Power Works.
Okay, tell me more. That's an expo.
But, well, in Lagos here, he's really trying, but in Ogun State...
Is Fashola still a governor?
No, Fashola, when he was in a government,
he really tried.
What
about Chris Ngige?
I don't know him.
Rotimi Amechi?
I heard about him. They said he tried in the States.
What ministry is he heading? What ministry?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know.
What do I say to you now?
I don't know.
Do I say shame?
No, don't say shame to me because I'm not interested in what do they call it? Because of we youth nowadays, the way we are suffering.
Why are you not interested? If you go for an interview, what would have happened?
If I go for an interview, I know.
Okay, I will score you 20 over 100. Bye-bye.
The people, giving voice to the voiceless.
It's been an interesting day staying on the streets, feeling the pulse of the Nigerians on topical matters, talking about the outgoing ministers and their performance in the past 4 years under President Muhammadu Buhari. Well, it is expected that the president coming in for the second term will hit the ground running.
If you are not idle, nobody will probably come and encourage you to join their gang or the group.
Yes. To keep Nigeria one is a must that must be done. Nigeria is not going to break.
So if I want to buy this one now, how much you go sell this one?
I will give you 500.
Sure? This one?
Yes.
This small banana?
Yes.
I know that Buhari can do it.
He has a lot of plans. We should be praying for him. He's a human being. Anything can happen to anybody.
The majority of the law they pass belong to them, to favor them, not the masses in Nigeria.
If we want to change, let's change generally. Don't let's change half. Let's change generally.
The people giving voice to the voiceless.
Democracy allows for fair hearing. This is reckless. This is ungodly.
When news break, we engage experts in critical analysis.
Do you see your party coming into power come 2019?
This administration will succeed and succeed well.
You cannot be running a 4-year tenure like you are running a 20-year tenure.
He has done fairly well, especially where insurgency and terrorism is concerned.
Then it gets controversial.
They have a right to their opinion.
Can we, very interesting gentlemen, just hold on.
I am about principle and I am about fortune.
Now, you see, let me say this.
So that our soldiers will be free. We should also ask for justification.
Core Digest, your #1 program for current issues.
CoreTV News now live on all Androids.
Hello and welcome. This is CoreTV.
Download CoreTV News app from your Play Store. Click on the menu to see all our top stories from politics, sports, business, foreign news and live TV to watch us live on your mobile.
I want to know why I should be believing them.
You can also click on video to see all our YouTube videos. CoreTV News, a 24-hour news station.
If you are not idle, nobody will probably come and encourage you to join their gang or the group.
Yes. To keep Nigeria one is a must that must be done. Nigeria is not going to break.
So if I don't buy this one now, how much you go sell this one?
I will give you 500.
Sure? This one?
Yes.
This small banana?
Yes.
I know that Buhari can do it. He has a lot of plans. We should be praying for him. He's a human being. Anything can happen to anybody.
The majority of the law they pass belong to them, to favor them, not the masses in Nigeria.
If we want to change, let's change generally. Don't let's change half. Let's change generally.
The people giving voice to the voiceless.
You can now watch CoreTV News live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
Hello and welcome to CoreTV Primetime News Broadcast.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click CoreTV. Leave a space, then news. CoreTV News, a 24-hour news station.
If you are not idle, nobody will probably come and encourage you to join their gang or the group.
Yes. To keep Nigeria one is a must that must be done. Nigeria is not going to break.
So if I don't buy this one now, how much you go sell this one?
I will give you 500.
Sure? This one?
Yes.
This small banana?
Yes.
I know that Buhari can do it. He has a lot of plans. We should be praying for him. He's a human being. Anything can happen to anybody.
The majority of the law they pass belong to them, to favor them, not the masses in Nigeria.
If we want to change, let's change generally. Don't let's change half. Let's change generally.
The people giving voice to the voiceless.
People, the people, the people, giving voice to the voiceless.
It is another episode of your dining program, The People. I'm your host, Emmanuel Ajayi. Well, on the street, feeling the pulse of Nigerians on topical matters. This time around, we're talking about the activities of the special anti-robbery squad in the country. And what are Nigerians saying concerning this one? Live here at Breja in Lagos. Let's hit the street to feel the pulse of Nigerians on this matter. See you more on the street.
All this is happening in Nigeria because of the condition of the country. That's why some people are going into all these things. It's not as if most of these guys on their own they want to go into it, but the way they are going into all those things, killing and all those things, and it doesn't make sense. So I like what they are doing because they are doing what we needed in this country in order to eradicate all the bad things happening in this country. So
you like what SARS is doing?
Yeah, I like what they are doing. I like the way they're handling the case, and but not killing. You understand? Killing, I think it's not accepted.
You don't get problem with police and SARS?
I don't get problem with that, but now only Buhari get problem with that.
You don't get problem with police and SARS?
Me and they no get anything. I know be Amoroba, I know be thief. I me and they will get problem. Then they do their work, me I do my work. My work not affect their work. Their work not affect my work. I will take their problem. Me and they no get anything.
So you like SARS?
I like them. Then they okay because if you want to cheat them, now then the whole. SARS not the cheat best. If you know you say you thief, they no get time for you. So now only Buhari me I get problem with.
Which problem you get Buhari?
Buhari problem I get with Buhari. I no get money. Since Buhari and no money, Because of Buhari, I park my car. Which kind of sense be that? I do use my car before.
Oh, you be Aboki now?
I be allergic, but I no be Aboki. I be allergic. Forget. But what if Buhari remain at the Buhari making change? This one way, this one not be life. What if you life because for you I park my car? No money, na my motor.
But they do Buru the change now.
I do Buru the change, but no money for Lagos.
The government are aware of all of this, and I feel they should do something about it, because the voice of the people is the voice of God, and they've been complaining that it should be stopped. I think the government should listen to them. It's very important that they should, because on several occasions we've heard that people were being killed by this squad. So I feel the government should do something about it. It's very, very important.
In the way the SARS and the police people dealing with people in this country now, it's not in another country. It's very, very, it looks so badly. Only what I know that government can be able to do about it is this. Government should maybe give them for some times, for them to reason, and anybody that did something, killed innocent person that didn't do anything. No, the government have to take care of that person, to know what they will do to that person. Know that SARS, you call yourself SARS, you'll be shooting people, innocent people, anyhow. You will not get the right person that they tell you to go and shoot. It's nonsense. So the government should know what they to do about it.
I would say that people need to be more informed, and SARS needs to be realigned or rearranged, reorganized. Because I believe they can do good if they are well informed, if they are well trained as well. I'm sure their intentions are good, but so many things have gone wrong.
About listen, I just see for there about and they try to people anyhow. Because no be share, as everything don't go on. But now, Shas, they don't stop them. But now everything don't do okay, Shas. They don't.
They work, they never stop them.
They still they work, but since when I don't stop them, since maybe last year, Shas, when they say they don't do one matter, maybe that matter just go, Shas. Since then, they don't small the because when I just see them normal ground, they just go their own, they don't disturb again.
The duty of a police is to protect the people. So any, what do I call it, any subgroup of the police or the police itself, and in general, when it fails to achieve that, then they should be scrapped. It means it's not fulfilling its duty, its constitutional responsibility. Police are not supposed to be intimidating anybody. They are supposed to be friends to Nigerians, and they are supposed to protect Nigerians, but not harass them. I think if SARS cannot do that, they should be scrapped.
I don't want SARS to be scrapped, because they are still helping us. The only thing that we needed is just a reform. The new IG should reform them. We still have some SARS that are doing well. They are doing well. If we scrap them now, there will be a lot of problem in the country. Armed robber will take over the whole country. But the only thing that we need is just to reform. The new IG should just reform and do new orientation. They should give them new orientation.
Do you have a constitution that is functioning? That's the question. If you have a constitution that is functioning, everybody's supposed to know its rules. But what I have discovered in Nigeria is that everything has been politicized. So you see politics in the activities of SARS? Very well. So tell us more, tell us. I don't need to tell you. If you look at, it's as if you are there, let my brother be there to cover you.
Actually, I have a feeling they're overacting beyond what they've been sent to do. But at the same time too, I think the young guys too, sometimes they're over, I wouldn't know, the dress code, some of those things have actually prompted them to streamline, like, okay, it looks like these are the kind of people we are looking for. This is their dress code, this is how they look. So I think the young people too should watch how they dress too. But at the same time too, I think the SARS, they really I mean, I don't know what their code of conduct is, but I think they've gone beyond their boundaries.
About SARS, for my own opinion, I would like the police force to end SARS.
Why?
Because of their brutality and killing in our environment lately. So I would like them to end SARS.
That's just one out of few or many cases of protection made by SARS? Their main work is to, according to what the meaning, the acronym is
swift anti-robbery, special anti-robbery squad, but they are not doing their work. Their main work is to fight against robbery. What's their concern with Yahoo guys? They have nothing to do with them. That's not robbery. That's not their work. But they are here. If they see a guy dressed good, a little, they will go to the guy, bully the guy, collect phone from the guy, money and stuff like that, which is not supposed to be so.
I don't have issue of SARS.
Why? Why don't you have issue of SARS?
Issue of SARS, because since I come here, I never see anything like SARS over here. So, but a thing what I just see here, let me talk about what I see today. Unfortunately, what I see today is about changing money to foreigners and people where they outside country. You understand? So, in their own doing it is very nice and very recognizing.
I think it's high time the government stop them, because about last month somebody died in their hands, a student who just came back from school. He died. He did nothing, and they are disturbing. If SARS can still stay on, they should just go by the rules, not going against the rules, stopping people up and down all in the name of they looking for something to eat. They are going against the rule. They are not doing the proper thing that is meant to be done.
Have you ever seen police officers harass people before?
I've not seen anybody.
Why?
I've not even met them now.
Do you know about SARS?
I don't know anybody. I don't know about SARS.
You don't know about SARS?
Yeah.
So they've not harassed any of your friends before?
No. Yes.
So, but you've not seen, but you know police officers?
I know them now.
What can you say about their activities in the country?
They do help to fight against war, crime, and other things.
So you like the work of police in Nigeria?
Work of police? Yes, now.
You like their work? They are doing well?
They are doing well now.
What do you make of the issue of SARS in
Have you
Nigeria?
started already?
Don't worry, you started. Don't worry, you are on live on air. What do you make of the issue of SARS in Nigeria, the Special Anti-Robbery Squad?
Well, for me, they should end SARS because they are not really doing their job.
Why?
It's not like the force is bad, and maybe the intention why the government brought the force is bad, but the way they are now taking power into their hands is very wrong. They've wasted many lives of young, promising youths, and it's very wrong. Like I have a colleague, he's a Nollywood actor. He died recently, like last 2 weeks. He died out of that he went to watch football. It's very wrong. For me, I don't really like it. But if they're really doing the job they came to do, it's fine. But if not, they should end it. So we should stop living in fear. I don't really like it.
Don't you think if they end SARS, there will be a lot of robberies?
No.
Robbery and some other things like that?
No, because there are many other forces that Nigeria has. Like they have the armed forces, that's the army. They have the police force. They have the Navy, the fire for fire, all those stuff. Are they not enough? Instead of wasting blood and shedding blood, I think it's better if they should end it. I'm not really in support of it.
The Special Anti-Robbery Squad in Nigeria.
I don't really understand what you're saying. That's why I said I don't.
You don't know about SARS?
I know about them, but I don't have anything to do with them also. I know my only opinion is that they should end it. They are not bringing any positive.
Why should they end SARS?
Because they don't know their work actually. They are not even doing anything in Nigeria. So the best is just to end it. Not
Bros, my name is Ogarima Chiku. Nigeria. I know the Nigeria again.
Why now?
No job. No job.
When they talk about SARS here now, they talk about the issue of SARS.
Sam now, who they here now? They go carry 4 person here now.
SARS?
God.
What did I do?
They go carry 4 person here for here now. And then every day, they fire everybody every day. I tell you, they
for Lagos.
I say for you, they carry 4 person for you.
Where be this place?
Beggar here, na me, Ogadima, see my face. They hear me.
But what did those guys do?
They don't do anything. We do mirror.
You sure I'm mirror they do?
I'm having a drink.
You sure? I
said I'm mirror with a drink. They enter there, they carry us.
They don't carry you now. You do here now.
I did them here.
Come close now. Come close.
I change that for them now.
What do you make you change that for them?
Because I know my rights.
Okay.
Ask me a question again.
No, no, don't do it, okay now. Thank you.
People, the people, the people, giving voice to the voiceless.
Welcome back. This is how we call it today on your daily program, The People. Nigerians, they're talking concerning the activities of the special anti-robbery squad in Nigeria. Well, it is expected that the special anti-robbery squad, talking about SARS, will be reformed to at least do something good when arresting Nigerians, not killing ordinary Nigerians in Nigeria. So I come your way again with another bumper package of your darling program, The People. I remain your indefatigable advocate for the people, Emmanuel Ajayi. God bless you. God bless Nigeria. Bye for now.
If you are not idle, nobody will probably come and encourage you to join their gang or the group.
Yes. To keep Nigeria one is a must that must be done. Nigeria is not going to break.
So if I don't buy this one now, how much you go sell this one?
I will free give you 500.
Sure? This one?
Yes.
This small banana?
Yes.
I know that Buhari can do it. He has a lot of plans.
We should be praying for him. He's a human being. Anything can happen to anybody.
The authority of the law they pass belongs to them, to favor them, not the masses in Nigeria.
If we want to change, let's change generally. Don't let's change up. Let's change generally.
The people giving voice to the voiceless.
You can now watch CoreTV News live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
Hello and welcome to CoreTV Primetime News broadcast.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click CoreTV, leave a space, then News. CoreTV News, a 24-hour news station.
If you are not idle, nobody will probably come and encourage you to join their gang or the group.
Yes. To keep Nigeria one is a must that must be done. Nigeria is not going to break.
So if I don't buy this one now, how much you go sell this one?
I will free give you 500.
Sure? This one?
Yes.
This small banana?
Yes.
I know that Buhari can do it. He has a lot of plans.
We should be praying for him. He's a human being. Anything can happen to anybody.
The authority of the law they pass belongs to them, to favor them, not the masses in Nigeria.
If we want to change, let's change generally. Don't let's change up. Let's change generally.
The people giving voice to the voiceless.
CoreTV News now live on all Androids.
Hello and welcome. This is CoreTV.
Download CoreTV News app from your Play Store. Click on the menu to see all our top stories from politics, sports, business, foreign news and live TV to watch us live on your mobile.
I want to know why I should be believing them.
You can also click on video to see all our YouTube videos. CoreTV News, a 24-hour news station.
Democracy allows for fair hearing. This is reckless. This is ungodly.
When news break, we engage experts in critical analysis.
Do you see your party coming into power come 2019?
This administration will succeed and succeed well.
You cannot be running a 4-year tenure like you are running a 20-year tenure.
He has done fairly well, especially where insurgency and terrorism.
Then it gets controversial.
They have the right to their opinion.
Can we, very interesting gentlemen, just hold on.
I am about principle and I am about fortune.
Now, you see, let me
say this.
So that our soldiers will be free. We should also ask for justification.
Core Digest, your #1 program for current issues.
If you are not idle, nobody will probably come and encourage you to join their gang or the group.
Yes.
To keep Nigeria one is a must that must be done. Nigeria is not going to break.
So if I want to buy this one now, how much you go sell this one?
I will fee give you 500.
Sure, this one?
Yes.
This small banana?
Yes.
I know that Buhari can do it. He has a lot of plans.
We should be praying for him. He's a human being. Anything can happen to anybody.
The majority of the law they pass belong to them, to favor them, not the masses in Nigeria.
If we want to change, let's change generally. Don't let change up. Let's change generally.
The people giving voice to the voiceless.
Another episode of your darling program, The People. Well, you may be wondering what I'm doing inside this market. I'm here to talk to traders and even buyers concerning the second term of President Muhammadu Buhari. And what are Nigerians saying at this time? Right here inside Obade Kombi, King's Market, Ogun State, Nigeria. Well, let's hit inside this market to feel the pulse of Nigerians concerning his second term bid. I'm talking about President Muhammadu Buhari. See you inside this market.
The people, the people, the people, giving voice to the voiceless.
Good afternoon, man. And you can address the Senate now.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, the President of the Senate, Your Excellency, the Deputy President of the Senate, Principal Officers of the Senate, distinguished senators, may I crave your indulgence to specifically acknowledge the three senators from Ekiti State, Senator Bumi Adetumbi, Senator Dayo Adeyeye, and Senator Okoyemi Bamidele. They have been very courteous and have guided me in my appearance here today. And for that, I want to say a very big thank you to them. As you said, my CV is before all of you, but I have to point out a slight correction. It's as a result of the printer's devil. My year of admission into university is 1977 and not 1971. I have been a lawyer since 1982, and my area of practice has been commercial practice. I have been opportuned to represent various companies, both Nigerian and international, in almost every area of commercial practice. In 1996, upon the creation of Ekiti State, I decided to throw my hat into the political ring. My first port of call politically was in the UNCP, United Nigerian Congress Party. Upon the proscription of that party, I joined the Alliance for Democracy. And to the grace of God, I was opportuned to be elected the first civilian governor of Ekiti State in the year 1999. I was a young man at the time, but I knew the responsibilities that I had on my shoulders, and I believe I executed my duties to the best of my ability at the time. I was opportuned as governor to be involved in many facets of development. And I like to believe that at the time of my governorship, we were able to take Ekiti to great heights. One important aspect of governorship that occurred during our period was the relationship that existed between the executive and the legislature in our state. We had a very, very good working relationship. The executive respected the right of the legislature to perform their oversight functions. So I am aware that it is important for good governance, for there to exist a good relationship between the executive and the legislature. After leaving office in 2003, I had the opportunity to contest for office in 2007, 2011, up to this present time. However, I felt it would be unfair of me to present myself always for election when there were other people interested in contesting. So I took it upon myself to be a mentor to up-and-coming politicians, and I've guided and assisted and supported them in their own political ambitions as well. So needless to say, the last 16 years have been spent in pursuit of putting together a progressive party that would meet the ideals of the people of this country. I was the pioneer national vice chairman Southwest of our party, the APC, when it was formed in 2014-2015. Since last year, I've been the deputy national chairman South of our party as well. I have done my best to see to it that we have a good and thriving party. And despite the fact that I am a member of the APC, I have not allowed my membership of my political party to affect my relationship with politicians who are friends in the other parties. Those who have been my friends continue to be my friends, and I continue to reach out across the divide to make new friends. One thing I would like to assure this Senate, sir, is that no matter what ministry I am assigned to, I will guarantee you that there will be maximum cooperation with this Senate, especially with committees of the Senate, with regards to them functioning the way they should, with regards to their oversight functions over the ministry. I thank you, Mr. Senate President, for giving me the opportunity to address this Senate, and I use this opportunity, with your indulgence, to thank Mr. President for nominating me to be a Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I thank you very much.
Distinguished Senator Muhammad Adamalero.
Thank you, Mr. President, Sitting Chair, distinguished colleagues. Mr. Nominee, my very good friend, my very good colleague, and also my leader. Mr. President, the nominee before us is the Deputy National Chairman of our party, a very strong pillar of our party, a stabilizing factor, a stabilizing factor, very, very reliable, an astute politician. And apart from that, he was also a governor in 1999 to 2003. And there are many of us here who are his colleagues when we were governors. We know him to be one of the best performing governors in the Southwest. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, in line with the tradition in this chamber, I will appeal to our colleagues, particularly from the other side, to allow our leader to take a bow and go. Is that the wish of the Mr. President? Not only that, he mentioned that even though he was in AD, but he had more intimate relationship with people from the other political parties. I was in AMPP by then, but we were very, very close up to the time he left office as governor of the state. And we are still close. We visit each other, we interact, and as he stands there, he is the architect of what we call the Governors Forum today. He initiated it, he has been the secretary of that party, and even after leaving office, he retained the position of the Secretary of the Governors Forum. And whenever there is meeting of the Governors Forum, he always calls us to come and sit down and discuss on national issues. So, Mr. President, this man is eminently qualified to be a minister. I therefore ask him to take a bow and go. Thank you.
No. Okay. Senator Mama Danjuma Goji.
Mr. President, Chair, distinguished colleagues, having listened to the submission of my colleague, Senator Alero, there is very little to say except to emphasize what he has said in his submission. He said one important thing, that whichever ministry is posted to, he is determined, is committed, is ready, is willing to give maximum cooperation to this chamber and to the National Assembly. This is very, very important because there are so many cases of lack of harmony or good relationship between some committees or the assembly with some ministers. But knowing him, like Alero said, I was not a governor when he was a governor, but I was a minister. And I remember we used to have one joint forum of ministers and governors. That time, they said it under 50s. We are all in our under 50s. We are under 50s. So we said only governors or ministers that were under 50s. And we used to meet, but we always said very soon, one by one, we will be disqualified. And I think all of us are now very much disqualified. But it was a very permanent, no, you are never a member. You are never a member. You are never a member. So, what I'm saying, distinguished colleagues, His Excellency Ni Adebayo is very, very social. Even though I was not a governor when he was not a governor, we still maintain very close relationship. And I'm sure not only me, we maintain a lot of relationship with many people even on that side. So based on this, and based on the fact that he is our leader, the deputy national chairman of the ruling party of Nigeria, the ruling party, and in view of the also good relationship between this side and this side, we would like you to cooperate. We will accord our leader the needful respect that he deserves. On this score, I strongly support the view of Senator Alero that let him just take a bow and go. Thank you.
In the spirit of the very cooperative, very collaborative partnership and synergy between the different political parties in this chamber, I will now put the question that the nominee takes a bow and go. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished and respected colleagues, Mr. President, I come under Order 43. No, I don't need to discuss because it's not controversial, Mr. President. Mr. President, I actually wanted to draw your attention to the fact that you only recognize the Governors Forum, and then on this 43.
Perhaps please get in the next. Distinguished colleagues, the nominee before us is Ambassador Zubairu Dada. Ambassador Zubairu Dada is the nominee for Niger State. Ambassador Dada, on behalf of my colleagues here, I welcome you to the Senate chambers, and we are in receipt of your CV. You are still allowed to highlight the major things that you want to highlight in the CV. And if there are any things that are omitted from the CV but you feel strongly that the Senate needs to know for the purpose of this exercise, you may highlight them. Once again, you are welcome. You can address the Senate.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, the President of the Senate, the Deputy Senate President, other principal officers, distinguished senators, I wish to sincerely thank you for this very rare honor of welcoming me into these hallowed chambers of the Senate. I also wish to see this opportunity, with your permission, to thank Mr. President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for deeming me, or for doing me the honor of nominating me for appointment as Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Your Excellency, distinguished senators, as you have seen from my CV, my names are Ambassador Zubairu Dada, some 67 years young, born in Minna, the capital of Niger State. Did my primary school in Minna, and also did my secondary school in what was then Fatima Co-Educational Secondary School, a Catholic school. After which I proceeded to Ahmadu Bello University for the School of Basic Studies, where by the special grace of God I happened to have been one of the pioneer students of the School of Basic Studies. Thereafter, or after my studies, when I finished in 1974, I proceeded for my NYSC in Lagos, where I taught in Lagos City College, Yaba. And thereafter, I was lucky to have been appointed, to have had an appointment with the Northwestern State Government, where I started as an information officer. On the creation of Niger State, I came back to Niger in 1976, where I continued service as an information officer until sometime, I think in 1979, when I was challenged by my state government to take up the job of midwifing the first legislature in Niger State then. That was 1979, where I worked, if you like, I trained as the editor, or the handset editor, of the first Niger State Assembly. I worked there for 4 years until the coup of 1983, as a result of which I went back to the services of the United States government, where I worked and rose to become a permanent secretary. Now thereafter, as a result of some reforms in 1983, I found myself appointed a director of MAMSA in Niger State until it metamorphosed into the National Orientation Agency, where I worked until 1999, when by the special grace of God, I was appointed an ambassador and posted to Poland. After my tour in Poland, the then president considered me worthy of reappointment, and I found myself posted again to the Republic of Mozambique with concurrent accreditation to Mauritius and Madagascar. I served my term out there, came back to Nigeria in, I guess, 2007, until sometime 2011, when I was again appointed a member of the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation, and Fiscal Commission, where I served for 5 years until 2016. And since then, I have remained a smallholder farmer back home. This, in a nutshell, Your Excellency, distinguished senators, is a little background of Zubairu Dada that stands before you now, sir.
Senator Mohammed Sani Musa.
Thank you, Mr. President and Chair. My distinguished colleagues, Mohammed Sani Musa, Niger East Senatorial District. I will first and foremost appreciate the patience of my colleagues in seeing that the nominee read his biodata again, despite having it in his CV. Ambassador Zubairu Dada is a bona fide Nigerite who has contributed immensely to the development of Niger State. And I believe that by extension, he has done so much also to Nigeria. He was one of those people that actually looked at the income of both the civil servants and the legislatures. And I knew that he has been emphasizing that having legislative experience back in 1979, he believed that the legislatures are those people that are supposed to be remunerated very well so that they will do the best for the country. And I believe if we give him the support now, he is going over there, whichever ministry he belongs to, he will be able to support us as much as he can in seeing that whatever legislation we put in place, the executive will by all means try to implement. So I will appeal to my colleagues to, as a president, to give him a chance, having legislative affairs, despite the fact that he wasn't elected, but he made right between the legislators and he's a diplomat. Thank you very much. So I think he should take a bow, and I'm sure he has passed all the scrutiny that on to the previous ones. He has also passed that one. So I believe that he can now take a bow and go. I'm appealing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you, Mr. President, sitting as chair. I'm Aliu Sabi Abdullahi. I represent the very good people of Niger North Senatorial District. I'm from Niger State. Distinguished colleagues, the task before us, which we have started since yesterday, is one that involves scrutiny, evaluation, to know how appropriate and apt a nominee is to occupy the exalted office of a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Within this context, Mr. President, sitting as chair, my distinguished colleagues, going through the CV of the nominee, it is very obvious that this is the third time that this nominee will be appearing before this very distinguished chamber. Having been nominated earlier as an ambassador and being cleared by a committee of this Red Chamber, he was reappointed and definitely have to go through the same process again. That means, for all intent and purpose, that this very distinguished chamber has found Ambassador Zubairu Dada worthy of flying the flag of the Federal Republic of Nigeria twice. Within this context, and given the fact that we still have much grounds to cover, I think it is apt, Mr. President, sitting as chair, my distinguished colleagues, to say that we are looking at somebody we have found already worthy twice. I think this third time, it is not out of place. And I don't think we will be doing anything outside what our tradition requires. That whatever this chamber has hold as a tradition, I think it is worthy of being respected. Within this context, Mr. President, sitting as our chair, distinguished colleagues, I want to seek your indulgence that Ambassador Zubairu Dada takes a bow and leave. Thank you.
Senator Bima Mohamed Energy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, my colleagues. Constitutional point of order. 147(2). But 147, of course. There shall be such offices as ministers of the government of the Federation as may be established by the President. Any appointment to the office of the minister of the government of the President shall, if the nomination of such a person to such office is confirmed by the Senate, be made by the President. This is a confirmation hearing. It's not an endorsement hearing. And I so move that we abide by what the Constitution says.
Your point of order is noted. Senator Bima.
For this privilege, my colleagues, my name is Bima Muhammad Enagi. I represent the good people of Niger South from Niger State. Mr. Nominee, I would like to congratulate you for this privilege being offered to you by Mr. President for you to be a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. For those of us that have known you for quite some time, we know you are a man of very high integrity. You are a man that is committed to work. So we are not surprised that Mr. President has nominated you. Mr. President, whom everybody here will agree with me, is Mr. Integrity. I will appeal to my colleagues that I key into the recommendation of my other colleagues from Niger State. We had actually met and we had all agreed to appeal to this Senate for you to do the right thing. And the right thing to be done is for the nominee to bow and go. Thank you.
Senator Stella Odwa.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dear colleagues, my name is Stella Odwa and I represent Anambra North. Mr. Nominee, I have two questions. Number one is, going through your CV, clearly you haven't worked in the private sector. You've done majorly public sector work, appointments, etc., which is good. But my question is this, Mr. Nominee. You've worked with MAMSA. What would be your policy thrust if you are given the responsibility to reposition NOA, for instance, to the extent that Nigerians will be conscious of their civic responsibility? How would you reposition NOA, and what, like I said before, would be your policy thrust of our national social contracts, that everybody will buy into that? The second question I have is, the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, very bogus, very pivotal, and very fundamental for our economic growth. My personal view is that we need to break them into two. Rural development should focus on rural development, and agriculture should focus on agriculture and its value chain. I believe when that is done, then we can have a bottom-up economic growth that will be holistic. I want to know your view towards this, and do you think that will enhance our economic growth? Thank you very much.
Minority Whip.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise in support of the three senators from Niger State, and to say that I support his nomination, and pending when we have our nomination from the FCT, I will support both the nomination and of Nasarawa and Niger, based on proximity, Mr. President. But I want to say that we are still expecting and hoping that the FCT will have nomination by the grace of God and by your support. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Patrick Abamoro.
Thank you, Mr. President, for this privilege. My name is Comrade Abamoro, Senator representing the Benue South Senatorial District. Mr. President, our colleagues who have acted in no small measure to stabilize this system have given testimonies about the nominee from Niger State. In the same spirit, Mr. President, I think that given the rich resume of our Ambassador, His Excellency, and the testimonies of our colleagues here, I support the opinion that he should be allowed to take a bow and go, because he's eminently, by my estimation, qualified to be a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I so submit.
Well, distinguished colleagues, there is only there are two questions from Senator Stella Odwa, and you take a bow and go after you respond to questions she raised. So you can respond, please.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Distinguished, talking about repositioning National Orientation Agency, when I look at the present NOA as it is, I look back with a sense of nostalgia at how MAMSA operated in those good old days. I believe the only difference will be that in those good old days, MAMSA was fairly adequately funded, and the staff of MAMSA were equally very well motivated. And they had a complement of all the equipment that they needed to enable them perform maximally. If MAMSA succeeded, I believe it had to do with the fact that the government gave them all the support that they needed to succeed. And I want to believe that some of the staff that we must have worked with, even if some of them have retired, I believe there must still be a good number of them that are still in the National Orientation Agency of today. What is very critical, what is very essential, is one, funding, and two, motivation for the staff. Now, talking about repositioning National Orientation Agency, I guess will all revolve around these two key areas. Because, like they will say, it's not so much of the equipment that is available to them, but the motivation of the staff to give of their best. And I have no doubt, Your Excellency, distinguished senators, that given the support that they need, and especially at this very critical moment in the life of this nation, especially with regard to current developments and also the issues of the social media, which are almost setting this country on fire. Nigeria needs to immediately resuscitate the activities of MAMSA in such a manner as to enable them to reach out to the grassroots as they used to do. We now have a situation in which National Orientation Agency's activities are almost limited to the mass media. Unfortunately, the mass of our people are in the rural areas, and some of them don't have any access to newspapers, they don't have access to the radio or television, and therefore they are not even aware of what exactly is happening. If MAMSA succeeded, it was because it reached out to all the nooks and crannies of this country. So, Your Excellency, distinguished senators, my simple opinion is that to reposition National Orientation Agency, the government must be ready and willing to make it work. Talking about Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development and the need to break it into two, yes, that would be most welcome. But again, considering the economic situation of the country, I am not sure that it is in the best interest of this country to start duplicating bureaucracies. I believe ministries are essentially supposed to give direction. They are supposed to give policy direction. And I believe the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development as it exists today, given the requisite manpower, given again the support that it needs, should be able to discharge this responsibility without necessarily duplicating bureaucracy. This is my very humble opinion.
Is it the wish of the Senate that the nominee takes a bow and go? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Point of order.
Don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. These are not good. I wrote about the power of government. Yeah. This is FCT also. Mr. President. Mr. President, can I go on, please? Yes, thank you. Order 122 and 123. I don't mean harm. I was only helping our work. I don't mean harm. I will read. Order 122 and 123. I read. Yeah, 22 and 23. 122 and 123. Can I recite? The President shall forward a certificate stating that he intends to appoint a person to any of the offices requiring the confirmation of the Senate. 123. Upon receipt of a certificate as referred to in paragraph 121, this above, the clerk shall distribute to each senator a list of the nominees in respect of whom a certificate has been received. The President shall make available sufficient copies of the relevant document. Mr. President, I was only trying to confirm something from the nominee, not to ask him a question. Now, he gave us certificate where issues are not clear on the certificate. And to be relevant, because we are doing confirmation screening, if you look at his age declaration, at the end of the pond where they sign it, no one knows whether it's 1923 or 1913. If the person were there, he would have said that, look, this is 1917 or 1927 or something. And it is important. That was why we are saying just clarification. And we are not even allowed to clarify. On the age declaration, it's a simple thing.
Distinguished Senator George Thompson Sekibo, what I have before me is readable. I have no difficulty with my copy, and I'm sure most senators, maybe it's only your copy. I really sympathize with your situation. You meant no harm, so your point of order is noted.
The next nominee coming into the chamber is Senator Chris Ngige, former governor of Anambra State between 2003 and 2006. He is currently a member of the All Progressives Congress. He was elected senator for Anambra Central Constituency in April 2011. He is a medical doctor by profession. Senator Ngige graduated from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, in 1979. He is the immediate past Minister for Labour. The nominee before us is the nominee, one of the nominees for Enugu, Anambra State. And this is one nominee that has passed through these very hallowed chambers. He also, of course, served in the previous cabinet. Very distinguished Senator Chris Onwabuze Ngige Onwa. On behalf of our colleagues, I want to welcome you back into the hallowed chambers of the Senate, and this will be your second time of going through this process. We are a receipt of your CV, but you are still at liberty to highlight those issues in the CV that you feel very strongly about, or indeed anything outside of the CV that you think can be helpful to this screening exercise. Distinguished Senator Ngige, you can address your colleagues.
Your Excellency, the President of the Nigerian Senate and Chairman of the National Assembly of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Deputy Senate President of the Nigerian Senate, principal officers, the majority party, the leader, the whip, and their various deputies. My distinguished brothers on the left side of the aisle, who I left in that my former party when the party was not doing well, but they are still waxing strong. when the vehicle became rickety, I had to leave. So the leader of the minority and the whip, who is my boss as chairman of the Senate Committee on Power, Steel and Metallurgy, distinguished Aduda, I was his deputy, and other principal officers on the side, especially also on this side, my distinguished senators from my state, Anambra State, the light of the nation, the two Amazons who donated into Nigerian politics. They will always see, anywhere they see, they will visit and conquer. And the man, Capital Oil, the indomitable Capital Oil, who is also in this Senate. I don't think, Mr. President, I have much to say, rather than to express gratitude to these chambers for the honor of me, for accepting me to come back home here and address you, and more importantly, to show my appreciation for the members of the 8th Senate, a lot of them are here, who took the minimum wage bill during my duty tour as Minister of Labor and Employment in the last government and gave it an expeditious treatment that enabled our amiable president, president of the masses, to give assent so that the lowest paid Nigerian worker will earn 30,000 naira in the private and the public sector. So I want to say thank you to this chamber and the entire National Assembly for doing us that honor at that time. Thank you very much.
Senate Minority Leader.
Thank you, President, sitting as the chair. I think it is our opinion that having established his primogeniture in his opening statement, that distinguished Senator Chris Nwabweze Ngige, Igbo leader, should take a bow and go.
The Senate Leader.
Mr. President, sitting in the chair, my distinguished colleagues, I completely endorse the position adopted by the minority leader. And I do recommend that the nominee should take a bow. So recommend.
Those in favor of the motion, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished Senator Ngige, you can take a bow.
Senator Chris Ngige is now the 9th nominee to be screened by the Senate at this screening plenary. Well, it is some tradition of according the former senator the privilege of taking a bow and leave has also been extended to Senator Chris Ngige, late past Minister of Labor and Productivity. Well, at the moment, the Senate has screened 9 nominees. We started with Tayo Alau Shaudura, Mustafa Shehuri, Abubakar Aliu, Bashir Magashi, Timi Prayer Silva, Ramatu Tijani Aliu, Richard Adebayo, Zubairu Dada, and then Chris Ngige, who just passed through the screening exercise. And then the Senate is now expecting the next nominee to enter the chamber and take his own turn of question and answers. The next nominee coming in for screening is Abdullahi Muhammad Hassan from Nasarawa State. He is the former secretary to the government of Nasarawa State, former Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, also for Nasarawa State between 2011 and 2013. He's now taking a bow before he gets to the podium for the screening exercise. He is the 10th nominee that will be facing the Senate in this screening exercise today.
Distinguished colleagues, the next nominee is Alhaji Abdullahi Muhammad Hassan, the nominee from Nasarawa State. Alhaji Hassan, on behalf of my colleagues, I want to welcome you to the hallowed chambers of the Senate. We already have copies of your CV, but you can still highlight any part of your CV that you feel the Senate needs to know or take note of, and you can also give any further information that may not be in the CV. Once again, after your presentation, senators will ask the relevant questions for the screening exercise. You can address the Senate.
Thank you, distinguished Senate President, distinguished principal officers of the Senate, other very distinguished senators here present, especially Senators Abdullahi Ademu, Umaru Tonka Mukura, and Godia Kwashiki. Mr. President of the Senate, before I proceed to do a brief introduction, may I crave your kind indulgence to make a very slight correction on my resume. If you look at page 1 of my resume, sir, under work experience, it says February 2017 to date. It is actually February 2017 to 29th May 2019. Having said that, Mr. President, permit me to put on record my very kind appreciation to Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces for finding me worthy to be nominated to serve in the Federal Executive Council. I know in my state there are so many more qualified persons, but in spite of that, Mr. President, in his own wisdom, chose me. I remain eternally grateful and humbled. Secondly, Mr. President, it is also very humbling that this very distinguished Senate has exercised its discretion to screen my humble self. I assure you, Mr. President, I will not take this privilege for granted. Finally, sir, I want to say that I want to put on record my very kind appreciation to distinguished Senator Abdullahi Adamu to serve under Senator Mo Chankwa Mukura as the Attorney General and then subsequently the SSG2's government under APC. And in the course of my job as the SSG and the Attorney General, I had cause to interact with the then Deputy Speaker of the Nasarawa State House of Assembly, Senator Godia Kwashiki. So I am giving these inferences, Mr. President, to underscore the experiences, the mentorship I got from these very distinguished senators from my state. Through this exposure, I was able to understand the intricacies of inter-party politics at a micro level. Again, they have taught me that public service is about sacrifice. It is on this premise that I'm here to humbly present myself for this screening exercise. Thank you, Mr. President.
Very distinguished Senator Abdullahi Adamu Turakin Kefi, former governor, former minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, on the chair, very distinguished colleagues. I am Senator Abdullahi Adamu, and I represent Nasarawa West. Distinguished Chair, I want to lead discussions in the Senate's consideration of the nominee for us, Alhaji Muhammad Abdullahi Hassan. Started his career, I would say, in my hands. The first time I got to understand his involvement and interest in politics was around the year 1995-1996, in his first bid for elected office as chairman of his local government at the time. He served the local government, and by the time I became governor of Nassau State in 1999, I had no problems whatsoever answering the call of the people of my constituency and its local government to consider him for appointment as Attorney General of Nassau State. He served the state credibly, and after my office, my successor had him come back to the state to serve as an advisor. The government of Alhaji Chankwa Mukura again sought his services and brought him back to serve as Attorney General. And towards the end of that administration, brought him in as Secretary to the state government. I want to lend my voice and seek the support of this hallowed chamber on two major grounds. The first one is the one I've just talked about. The second one is the fact that there is a yearning by Nigerians, particularly the up and coming young Nigerian men and women, to have the young get opportunities to serve this country. Mohammed
Abdullahi Hassan is a budding young politician, and immediately we did hear his nomination for ministerial appointment. The three of us who are Senator representing Nasarawa State were unanimous to give him the support he needs to be able to have the National Assembly, the Senate, accept his nomination and, recommend him as such for swearing in by His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The second reason is, based on his profile and the services he has rendered, he has been exposed to have inter-party and intra-party experience at this very formative age. He also was privileged by the offices he held to have experience in interministerial, intergovernmental, relationships that are critical in the federal system of government, the type we operate. I therefore would want to appeal to my colleagues in the spirit of our commitment to give the youth opportunity. In our zone, he is the youngest ministerial nominee, and all our colleagues are unanimous in agreement to give him the support that he needs so that the young will have a chance to grow. I therefore do recommend, Mr. Chairman, that in the spirit of the moment, that this nominee takes a bow. I so thank you. I'm not too young to be a minister. Your mic.
Senator Umar Tanko Al-Makura.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, let me thank you for giving me the opportunity to contribute to this discussion on the nomination of Barrister Mohammed Abdullahi. In supporting his nomination, Mr. President, I would like to bring to the knowledge of my colleagues the much I know about Barrister Mohammed, because this is a person that has worked with me for 8 years that I've been in office as governor of Nasarawa State. He had been my Attorney General. He had been my special advisor in the last lap of my tenure, in the last 4 years. He was my secretary to the state government. I would like to say without any fear of contradiction that I can attest to the fact that Barrister Mohammed is a committed person, someone that is highly competent and loyal. This is someone that is so versatile because he has got experience across the board, from the private sector to the banking sector to the law profession and to central administration in governance. I believe such persons with this kind of pedigree are persons that would add value to the administration of this country. I believe if it pleases my distinguished colleagues to grant this nominee the opportunity to bow, I believe this country will be better for it, because I have known Barrister Mohammed and what he has been able to do as one who has occupied all these positions. And I believe he will bring all these experiences to bear when he's opportune to be given an office to serve as Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I believe this will increase the competence and add value to the administration of the country. I so submit, Mr. President. Thank you.
Senator Akwasheki Wodia.
Mr. Chairman, my very distinguished colleagues, Akwashki Godia is my name, representing Nasarawa North Central District. Mr. Chairman, the gentleman before us today and now, just like my leaders, the former civilian governor of Nasarawa State have said, he is a man that will create a fine balance between the public and the rule of law. He was one time Attorney General under Adamu, Attorney General under Almakura, and let me assure this Red Chamber, he has not gone through the legislative experience, but he is a very good friend of legislature. That is why today you can see almost all the member House of Representatives from Nasarawa State are sitting down there. Almost all the former senators, including your colleague, Senator Damboy, is also there. He is a very good friend of legislature. He is a lover of democracy. He is a lover of peace. That is why almost all the administration in Nasarawa State, whether he likes it or not, they will invite him to come and serve under them, to create a balance between the youths, the masses, the elders, and the general public. I want to assure this great chamber that the president, our leader, the leader of this country, will not regret it. And I repeat, he will not regret it. Having found Barrister Abdullahi Mohammed to serve in his cabinet, I want to assure him and to assure the general public that he will bring a lot of experience, especially now that we are having insecurity in most parts of the country. He is a person that always likes to make things happen according to the rule of law. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for the opportunity, and I want to join my leaders to allow the young man to go and rest so that he will prepare himself to serve Nigeria better. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for the opportunity, and I join them to give him soft landing. Thank you very much.
Senator Balaibu Nala.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues. If you have noticed, throughout this process, I maintain an observatory position. I try as much as I can to restrain myself from making comments, but in this case, I think I have a responsibility, both moral and legal, to comment on the nominee. I can vividly say that I'm closely associated with Nasarawa State in the last 8 years. And I can say with all degree of responsibility that the nominee, I first met him when he was working with Olani Peku and co. I think we were doing a matter before Justice I can't remember. And he exhibited a decorum that was hardly associated with somebody of his calling with the years at the bar. And from that day I said, I think he's on his path to greatness. After some time I discovered that he is in Nasarawa serving our brother and friend, Senator Almakura. And I met him briefly when again Senator Almakura invited me to Nasarawa for something. And I said that, well, I've always been a very good, let me, you know there is a way the president of the Senate will look at you and then I know his message. let me enter a plea of not guilty that throughout my life I have never been a contractor in any state of the Federation. I have just been a very good friend of distinguished Senator Almakura, and we were in the struggle together for over 4.5 years. He knows. But what I'm trying to say is simple. I can testify to the fact that Nasarawa State has been too lucky to have two things. One, they are governor, and next, they are nominee. I can testify to that fact. And let me urge my colleagues to, in the spirit of dedication of this Senate, to try as much as you can to make available to Nigerians men of goodwill and character, recommend the nominee to this distinguished Senate for confirmation as a Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I so do.
Distinguished Senator Uche Lilian Ekunife.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Uche Lilian Ekunife. Mr. President, I represent Anambra Central. I'm from Anambra State. Mr. Nominee, congratulations. But first of all, looking at your CV, I can see that you were former Secretary to Nasarawa State Government and former Attorney General of Nasarawa State Government, which means you are very conversant with contractual agreements. Assuming you are chosen as the Minister for Works, I have two questions. This one is for Works. As Minister for Works, how are you going to handle the abandoned road projects in Nigeria? For every contractual agreement, there is a commencement date and completion date. But some contractors have been on these roads for 10, 12, 15 years, perpetually on those roads. Roads from Enugu to Onitsha, Enugu to Port Harcourt, Lokoja to Ajokuta, the same contractor year in, year out. I believe that is either the federal government has reneged on the agreement or the contractor reneged on the agreement. But the fact remains that the contractors have been there year in, year out. Every year there will be variation. They will do few meters, leave the projects again. Some contractors will come and do some skeletal work. Some have been abandoned for years. If you're choosing as a Minister for Works, what are you going to do to revisit, either by cancelling the contractual agreement and re-awarding or getting those projects completed? Most of our roads have been abandoned by these contractors based on what issues I have raised. My second question is this. Looking at you, young man, young handsome guy from Nasarawa. My question is this. I'm coming. I'm protected. Mr. President, I'm protected. My question is this. Mr. Nominee. Mr. Nominee, we are in a world of innovation today. Innovation in the way we do things to proper solutions. Innovation in the way we even handle our homes. Now, as a nominee, you don't know the ministry they will post you. We have been experiencing decline in women representation in both elective and appointed positions. Assuming Mr. President wants to do it in a different way by bringing innovation and puts you as the Minister for Women Affairs. Excuse me. Excuse me. Allow me to clap. Mr. President, am I not protected? Mr. Nominee, assuming Mr. President decides to think out of the box and puts you there as a minister, choose you as a Minister for Women Affairs. Having had women as Minister for Women Affairs for years, and we have not achieved anything. Assuming Mr. President makes you as a Minister for Women Affairs, what will you do to ensure that more women in an elected position and appointed position? These are my two questions. Thank you very much.
Distinguished colleagues, I could not see the link between the earlier submission of a young, handsome man and a Minister of Women Affairs. I didn't see the link. Distinguished Senator Albert Akpan Basi.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished and respected colleague, Senator Albert Basi Akpan, Akwa Ibom Northeast. Mr. President, having to recognize me after Uche Kunife's speech is quite in order, sir. Because I know that for the first time as the President, let me even commend the President of Nigeria. Because in this set of ministers, we've seen a lot of young, vibrant Nigerians, which gives us hope that we look forward to better days ahead. Mr. President, having looked at the CV and listening to our leader, Senator Abdullah Adamu, a former governor of Nasarawa State for 8 years, and also our leader, Senator Al Makura, a former governor of Nasarawa State for 8 good years, which this nominee went through. Mr. President, I think the real essence of confirmation by the Senate is to counter-assess the capacity, the integrity, and the personality of these nominees. And if we can have two former governors who has worked with this nominee, attesting to his integrity and his capacity, then, Mr. President, I think the work of the Senate is made easy. So therefore, without prejudice to the questions that have been asked on this floor, Mr. President, because I don't think there is any question that this man here will not answer. To save the time of other senators to look at other nominees, and based on the attestations of the two-term former governors too, I think, Mr. President, the nominee can attempt to reflect on the comments of Senator Uche Kunife. Then he takes a bow and we leave. I still summon, Mr. President. Okay.
I will take Senator Samegu and then the minority whip, and then he responds.
Thank you, Mr. President. I remain Senator Sam Egu, representing Ebonyi North Senatorial District. Mr. President, I want to congratulate the nominee, the young, vibrant candidate.
No.
Going through, Mr. Nominee, going through your CV, after your NYSC in 1994, you only practiced for 2 years. Only 2 years you were in the private sector. And from 1996 to date, you have been in government. For 23 good years, you have been in government after graduation. The implication of this, Mr. Nominee, is that you are one of the few lucky Nigerians that graduated and worked for only 2 years and started getting government appointments. And the two governors you worked through have all testified to your service, which is very good. My question, therefore, is, not all Nigerian youths are as lucky as you are. As a minister, what policies would you advise the executive government, the federal government, or Mr. President, to initiate on behalf of the teeming youths that may not be as lucky as you are, that want to stand on their own in the private sector? In other words, how can you come up with a policy that will help the Executive Council to support those in the private sector, those who may not want to be in government line, to go into appointments, to be able to be sufficiently established to have a sense of belonging and to make their business thrive in this country. Thank you very much.
Minority Whip.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Just like I had earlier on said that I will be supporting Niger and Nasarawa State, who we share boundaries together with. I'd like to thank you, Mr. President, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. President, me and Mohammed also, I will attest that we have come a very, very long way. I knew him way back in 1996 when he was the vice chairman of my late brother-in-law, who they served, and he was his chairman, and he was the vice chairman at the time. So I've come a long way with him, and I know him very well, and I know him as a man of integrity, and I know him as somebody who is very straightforward and amiable, and that's why the two governors he has had to work with and has had to work with the two executive governors of Nasarawa State. Mohammed, mine is a very, very simple question. I didn't need to ask you, but just for you to be able to explain to all of us, and then for you to be able to, for us to understand. You have been company secretary about twice in your career. What can you do to strengthen our company laws to avoid abuses by directors and to make, to at least give investors encouragement so that they can invest? And then you were SSD and you were Attorney General. I'm sure issues of security will have come before you in the course of the discharge of your duty and responsibility. And I think that God knows which position you'll be appointed to, but what can you to bring to bear at the national level, looking at the various challenges that we're having today as it relates to security? Thank you very much.
Senator Francis Fadausi.
Mr. President, serving as the chair of this, my own question to my young man. By the way, my name is Francis Adefadausi from Osun State. My question to you, that's the question I've been asking anytime I pass to Nasarawa. God so kind, people have been praising you as a young, energetic developer. But my question is, you served under two governors. And you are almost the advisor. If you look at the development between Abuja and Nasarawa, you now compare it with the development between Abekuta Road, that is Abekuta, and Lagos. You see the development coming up. You see the IGR of that particular state, Ogun State, is coming out. The incentive the Ogun State used to lure in developers, to lure in all these industries, I think it's the same incentive you should have used to lure in developers from Abuja, so that you see a lot of revenue coming up from that side. As soon as you leave Biham University, you will know that you are going to Nasarawa. What effort are you going to make now that you are going to be the Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? What new things are you going to introduce to develop Nasarawa through the federal might?
You can respond, please.
On the first question by distinguished Senator Ekunife, if permit me to pronounce it that way, Mr. President. The challenge we have about contracts when they are drafted from the level of public institutions. From experience, is that they are sometimes, with all due respect, not properly written. In other words, public officers don't do their own bit. They don't do their own due diligence before, penning their signatures to most contracts. So in most cases, you see the contracts are skewed against the government. That is why you have so much challenges in trying to unbundle such contracts. It is always very difficult because of the legal challenges to immediately review contracts. Some of them are laced with clauses for arbitration. Some of them are laced with clauses for damages or for outright revocation. So, to be very candid, distinguished Senator, each contract must be taken on case-by-case basis before you can take what approach you can to either review or revoke or review. So I will, assuming I'm asked to work on those contracts, perhaps the best thing I would do is to suggest a team that will review such contracts and then bring up very legal, sustainable, bankable positions that government can adopt. But I don't think I can have a straitjacket answer to say we are going to review the contracts. It will be difficult outrightly because they should be treated on case-by-case basis. Now, your second question is about assuming I am sent to the Ministry for Women Affairs, what will I do differently? I think the major framework for women empowerment has been elucidated in the Beijing Conference resolutions. What we'll probably do is to domesticate such resolutions and see how we can empower women. We can look at our own various communities and see how programs like women empowerment, soft loans, widows empowerment scheme, and probably to a large extent some level of scholarship for vulnerable women. In the interim, Mr. President, I think if I am chosen to be Minister of Women Affairs, I'll equally work hand in hand with the First Lady and all women organizations to ensure that their challenges are addressed. Distinguished Senator Aduda, if I'm correct, raised the issue of strengthening laws governing activities of directors in either public or private companies. Well, hitherto, there was this understanding or this misconception that some companies are too big to fail in spite of all abuses. That is why easily referable is the issue of Enron Corporation in the US. Because it is a very big electricity corporation, a typical American doesn't believe the company can fail. It is too big, it's a behemoth. But somehow, because of insider abuses, because of non-disclosure, because of lack of openness, the company went under, it went into a very dubious debt. So it is exactly the scenario with the defunct NITEL. People thought NITEL has a very robust infrastructure. It has a wide coverage. It has a big subscriber base. Therefore, it cannot fail. But it fell. Why? Because people charged with running these companies have taken advantage of some loopholes in our Companies and Other Matters law to abuse the process. So we need to strengthen, one, our corporate governance rules to ensure much more transparency in the conduct of directors of companies. And then two, we should also adopt the recommendations of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, which is in the US, to ensure that every director of either a public water company or a private company makes substantial disclosure where he has interest, so that we can avoid conflict of interest. Thirdly, I think our supervisory institutions, the Corporate Affairs Commission, the Security and Exchange Commission, and other relevant bodies must ensure that annual returns are filed as at when due, so that we could detect telltale signs for any future failure of a public enterprise. If I guess it,
Mr. President, 2 more minutes.
Have you exhausted the questions?
Yes, sir. If I, distinguished President, sir, Senator Aduda made reference to security issues based on my experiences interacting with security operatives as the officer of the SSG. Security challenges is equally sometimes local in nature. So it is important that communities are, made to be the drivers of security challenges in our various communities. From our experience in Nasarawa State, we had what we call community-based conflict resolution mechanism, which is a community-driven security processes from bottom to the highest level of security operations. So what we do is we engage the youth leaders, the women leaders, the security agencies in outpost stations in the communities, village heads, and indeed district heads, to ensure that they participate in security processes. That is why, to a large extent, we have been able to minimize issues of harder farmers' conflict, in spite of the notorious nature of such conflict. So I would recommend that such, what I choose to call a Makura model, can be adopted at the federal level. It is pleasing to see that the IG has embraced the issue of community policing, which is akin to our processes at the state level. Now, distinguished Senator Egu spoke about my privilege of serving the public service. I indeed am privileged, and I'm indeed honored, sir. And you asked me what policies we need to do. Well, let me just say in one word, sir. The youth of Nigeria want only one thing, which is jobs. The youth want jobs. The youth want jobs. So it falls on us at the Executive Council to initiate policies that will translate into multiple jobs for our teeming youth. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, you would have noticed that I allowed for more questions to be asked. The essence is to give opportunity to the nominees themselves. These are people who have been nominated, and of course, they have shown competence. And the educators and Nigerians who are watching or listening to this. So it's not to prolong our stay here. With these brief remarks, I will now put the question. Those in favor of the motion that the nominee takes a bow and go, having exhausted or responded to all the questions, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You can take a bow.
Well, that was the last nominee that have just been screened from Nasarawa State, Mohammed Abdullahi. The senators did ask him some questions, especially on the issue of incompletion of contracts, especially road contracts. And then the nominee was able to explain some of the certain steps that, if confirmed as minister and then drafted into the Ministry of Works, has listed some steps he would take to ensure that these are all addressed. For instance, he talked about revoking of some of those contracts, and he also advised public servants to ensure that whenever there is need for contractual agreement between contractors and government, that there should be, that the terms of the contract must be vividly clear and written. And then another nominee is coming in now to face the Senate. The next nominee that's going to mount the podium now is Sunday Akindare. Sunday Akindare is from Oyo State.
Mr. Sunday Akindare. Mr. Akindare, you are welcome to the Senate chambers. On behalf of all my colleagues here, we welcome you.
Thank you.
We are in receipt of your CV and all the details, but you can still highlight on those that you feel are so important for this exercise. And in fact, you could also add if there is anything missing or left out, but you feel is important for this exercise. So once again, you are welcome and you can address the Senate.
Thank you. Distinguished Senate President, Senator Ahmed Lawal, the Distinguished Deputy Senate President, Senator Omagege, most distinguished senators in this hallowed chamber this afternoon, and indeed my distinguished senators from the state of Oyo, Oyo Agbewao. Let me start by putting forward my appreciation for this opportunity to stand before this very important assembly, the Nigerian Senate, the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Let me also equally, with all modesty, thank the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, for counting me worthy to be a ministerial nominee in a country of 193 million, with talented people. I thank you for this opportunity. And once again, my names are Sunday
Akin Dare from Ogbomoso, Oyo State. In 2016, I had the privilege and opportunity to be screened by a committee from this Senate for the position of the Executive Commissioner Stakeholder Management of Nigerian Communications Commission. And 2.5 years down the road, I've had the great opportunity and privilege to serve this country in that capacity of managing the telecommunications sector of our economy, a sector that has been very dynamic in growing our GDP from 9.1 when I joined to 10.1 as we speak. I've had the opportunity to help work with different critical stakeholders to make sure that telecommunications serves as a tool for national development, particularly in the era of digitization. So today, I stand before you. I finished from the Baptist High School in Jos. I proceeded from there to the Oyo State College of Arts and Science, Oscars Ile-Ife, for my advanced level studies in geography, government, and history. Thereafter, I proceeded to the Ahmadu Bello University Zaria to read international studies. Thereafter, I proceeded to the University of Jos, where I earned a master's degree in international law and diplomacy. Still on the academics, I had the opportunity of being selected as a visiting journalism scholar to the New York University, NYU, in New York. And then in the year 2000, I was selected as a Nieman Fellow at the Harvard University for a one-year academic study. And finally, in 2010-2011, I won another fellowship award to conduct academic research in residence at the Oxford University in the United Kingdom. At the professional level, I've had a stint for almost 25 years as a journalist and a writer. I worked with the News magazine and Tempo, after which I moved on to work at the Voice of America in Washington, D.C., where I served for 9 years as the chief or director of the Hausa service of the Voice of America, where we broadcast to about 45 million Hausa speakers across the West African sub-region. If you permit me, I want to step back and talk a bit about my work as a journalist, particularly with the News and Tempo magazine, where I rose to become the general editor. It was a period in which constitutional democracy was suspended in this country. It was a period in which the parliament, as important as it is, fulcrum of democracy, where you now sit, was also suspended. And I, along with members of the civil society, played a critical role in fighting for the return of civil democracy and constitutional rule to Nigeria. At the risk of our lives, our limbs, and I'm sure there are some members, distinguished members of this hallowed chamber today, who are part of either NADECO, the civil society, or the pro-democracy group that joined to make sure that we enjoyed the fruit of democracy as it is today. I will move quickly to just speak briefly about my work at the NCC. We live in an era of digitization in which every aspect of our lives is now being digitalized. We leverage on critical telecommunications infrastructure and technology under IT, as we call it in the industry, ICT when it comes to education. We have e-commerce, e-medicine, And the NCC, as the regulator, plays a key role in making sure that national development in all sectors in this country is accelerated and advanced by leveraging on digital platforms. I have been a champion, and I continue to champion, the need to leverage telecommunications platform and technology for national development. We have seen how it has contributed to the GDP of countries around the world, from North America to Europe. In Nigeria, we have statistics that testify to this. From 9.1, some 3 years back, we're at 10.1 right now. We have seen that the more we have the penetration of broadband, the more we empower our startups, the more we can empower our youth to be self-employed. They can develop content, leveraging on the Web 1.20 as we have it. At the NCC, we have seen a regulator that has leveraged regulatory excellence for national development. So we talk about regulation for development, not regulation for the sake of it, not regulation that is over-regulation, but rather regulation that is fastidious, regulation that is consistent, regulation that seeks to advance the growth of this country in all sectors. We are not there yet. We want to improve quality of service. We want broadband access to go to every home, which is the last mile. We are now at 33%. We have a goal of reaching 70% in 2 years. We want fiber optic connection to reach 774 local governments across the country. We want a more efficient use of our spectrum resources in this country. Above all, we want to place this country on the path of being able to enjoy the 5G, which is just around the corner. That will give us the fastest connection speed ever, that will enhance and deepen business growth and development, that will enhance e-government and e-governance as the case may be. I've been privileged to be at the center of a pivotal industry, a dynamic industry, which has pervaded all of our lives, from 2G to 3G to 4G to 5G. Once again, my CV is before you, distinguished senators. I would like to stop here and listen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Distinguished colleagues, let me take the opportunity to ask the first question. One of our colleagues here, Senator Bulu Semos, about 2 weeks ago, when we were discussing insecurity, especially kidnappings in the country, said that we can address this problem, especially kidnapping, where the kidnappers negotiate ransom with their funds, and yet neither the NCC nor the operators nor the security agencies are able to track down these kidnappers in time to rescue people. How, because you are still, I think, a commissioner in NCC, tell the Senate how the cooperation of these agencies with the NCC will ensure that kidnappers are arrested and appropriate action taken. But essentially, how can we really get to the kidnappers while they are using this? You just take note of the questions. Next will be Senator Taslim Folari.
Thank you, Mr. President, Senate Chair, my highly respected colleagues. Mr. President, Standing before us today is a ministerial nominee from your state. He's still the executive, one of the 3 executive commissioners in NCC, an accomplished author and very cerebral. Mr. President, unlike other states, we wouldn't be asking for this man to bow and go. We want to showcase our contribution to the Federal Executive Council. And I want to thank you for asking the first question. I would also like to ask him a question, Mr. President. You talked about this broadband, but we know it isn't working the way you make it sound. Could you tell us what the issues are, what the challenges are? Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Abdul Fattah Buhari.
My respected colleague, Mr. President, in 1991, when Sunday Dare was doing his first degree in Ahmadu Bello University, I was doing my master's. I was just in front of the bar one day, and he said, Egbon, he said, you are from Obumasho. I was meeting him for the first time at that time. I said, yes. Since that time, up to date, he has maintained a very good relationship with me. Before that time, along the line, on Ezra, and he was always calling from Washington to find out, Egbon, Kilo Shelele politically, that what is happening at home politically. I said, look, things are moving on well. When we're now moving to democracy, when they came back from their exile, we maintained that relationship. In 2016, when he was being screened at this place for NCC, I was chairing the ICT committee. Olamide Khan was the chairman for communication. We went for the screening, and that day myself and Olamide Khan, we now stood there for him that, look, we can assure you that he will do his best to the communication industry. Within that 2 years and now, he was able to produce this book, Regulating Telecommunication for National Development. And those who are part of the team, we asked him at that time that, look, what will be your contribution, how the way they are using telecommunication as a higher revenue generation for the country. He said at that time that, look, if people can give us the enabling law, we will be able to, if you are able to amend the law, the current law, we will be able to increase the revenue that is coming. And I'm happy when he was introducing himself, he said something like that. My colleague, I'm appealing to you. I'm presenting Sunday Dare as a nominee. And we are not saying you should take a vow. We even want him to show the experience and the brain he has, so that people can appreciate the stuff we are presenting. Thank you very much.
Very good one.
The DSP.
Thank you, Mr. President, sitting as chairman of the Omo Agege, Delta Central Senatorial District. First, I want to thank Mr. President for this nomination. This nominee is a nominee that will add value to the Federal Executive Council. I have no doubt whatsoever. I stand today to honor your service and your contributions to this country, both while in exile, in your fight for restoration of democracy, and the services you've rendered since you came into governance. I honor you for all of them. Now, my question. You served in the NCC. The first question that was asked of you by Mr. President was a question I was going to ask. But I haven't been asked. I want to follow up on that by asking you if you feel that the sanctions and the penalty regime as contained in the NCC Act is sufficient to deal with issues arising from non-registration of SIM cards, because that is the thrust of the problem we have today, where you have people using phones with SIM cards that are not registered to commit these crimes, not just banditry, but kidnapping and what have you. In your service in NCC, did you try to seek the enforcement of the penalty and of the sanctions regime as therein contained? Or did you at any time consider those sanctions regime inadequate? And if inadequate, would you be recommending, what would you be recommending as a more effective sanctions regime in the event you find yourself as Minister of Communications? That would be my question. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Kola Balogu.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Kola Balogun. I represent Oyo South Senatorial District. I rise to join my brothers from Oyo State to congratulate our brother, Mr. Sunday Akindari, for this opportunity for him to serve as a Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, we have a saying in Oyo State. Please permit me to say it first in Yoruba, then I will tell you what it is in English. We say, Ajíṣebí Ọ̀yọ́ láàrí, Ọ̀yọ́ ò ṣe bí ẹnì kọ̀ọ̀kan. In other words, in other words, Oyo is a pace-setter state. When my colleagues were making their submission, they said we are not interested in bowing and going because we have a young man whom we are sure will not only represent Oyo State adequately, will represent Nigeria whatever portfolio is given by Mr. President. As you can see from his CV, he's a scholar, he's cerebral, he's intelligent, he's educated. Mr. President, with all this, I'm sure that Mr. President is simply putting a round peg in a round hole. But now I have a question for you. Now that the country is trying to move from a resource-based economy to knowledge-based economy, what would you be suggesting to Mr. President as a way for us to move as a nation from a resource-based economy to a knowledge-based economy, given your background and your skill as an IT expert? Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, sir.
Your mic. Thank you. You can respond to the questions. The first set.
Thank you, distinguished Senate President. I want to thank you for your question. I think that question perhaps is the most important and critical question, timely in every sense of the word, to pose right now, not just to the NCC as the regulator of the telecommunications industry, but also to our country's security agencies. The issue of kidnapping worries us, not just as regulators, but also as citizens of this country. And we have watched across the country how we have seen a spike in the level of kidnapping. The starting point really is that to arrest kidnapping, it is a collaborative effort. Because NCC as a regulator, without making any excuses, does not have prosecutorial powers. But we do have what we call the same registration database, a database inclusive of 172 million subscribers in this country. It is expected to have every SIM card registered with the necessary information and data, biometrics, as the case may be. The process works in such a way that the operators collect this information, they pass them on to the regulator, and we begin a process of verification or scrubbing. Because very often we have found that the biometrics are not done properly, the information, certain fields are missing, and in most cases we found that